the type to beat up the bad guy when things turn ugly.
My name is Waffles, and I'm a government whistleblower turned political commentator, and this is the last 24 hours in the news. Today is August 27, 2025. It is 12:35 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Here are the top U.S. news highlights from the past 24 hours. Public support weak for policing D.C. with troops. A new Reuters Ipsos poll finds only 38% of Americans support President Trump's use of the National Guard troops to police Washington, D.C., underscoring the legal and civil liberties controversy around the deployment. SEC reverses course on office closures. An internal memo shows the SEC, Securities and Exchange Commission, will keep its Los Angeles and Philadelphia leases after renegotiation via the GSA and about face amid broader federal cost-cutting drives. That sounds to me like he is trying to shut down our Securities and Exchange Commission operational offices, and that these two are staying open. What's going on with that? And the Securities and Exchange Commission is supposed to investigate fraud when companies are stealing from people. Donald Trump has initiated significant personnel changes at the Securities and Exchange Commission, including his nominee for chairman and a substantial staff reduction. These moves are intended to shift the agency's focus towards deregulation and away from its previous priorities, such as aggressive cryptocurrency enforcement. It gives me like a list of people that have left. In early 2025, the new administration offered financial buyouts for early retirement or resignation to encourage workforce reductions. This is at the Securities and Exchange Commission. This is the federal agency that is supposed to protect Americans against fraud. They handle cases where corporations are engaging in mass-scale fraud, and Donald Trump is descaling this. He is removing people. He is making it smaller. He's making it so it's less capable of enforcing the laws against fraud. I just want to make sure that that's clear. In March, the SEC's delegated authority to issue formal orders of investigation was revoked. This change makes issuing subpoenas more difficult and centralizes political oversight of investigations. Some officials were reassigned, and the size of the SEC's crypto team was reduced. The administration... Reversal of office closures. Let's open this up. That's the news for today. I'm going to share that on my timeline. Crime, extremism, and civil risk. Active military police mobilization and threats of action. The administration signaled it may deploy U.S. military forces to Chicago on less than 24 hours' notice after federalizing policing in D.C., state and local officials have pushed back. The president says the U.S. will seek the death penalty in D.C. homicide cases, a significant prosecutorial escalation with civil rights implications in the federal district. FEMA workers were placed on leave after signing a letter critical of the administration, according to a Washington Post account summarized by Reuters, raising workplace retaliation questions inside a disaster response agency. White House explores equity stakes in defense primes. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick said the administration is considering taking stakes in contractors like Lockheed and Boeing, extending a broader push for direct federal involvement in strategic firms. Markets reacted mixed. Possible sanctions on EU officials over the Digital Services Act. The administration is weighing sanctions on EU or member state officials who enforce the DSA, arguing it censors Americans and burdens U.S. tech companies. Consumer confidence slips. The Conference Board Index fell to 97.4 in August from 98.7, with expectations at 74.8, below the threshold often associated with recession risk. Respondents cited jobs, tariffs, and prices. This is according to the AP, the Associated Press. SEC keeps 2 field offices, retaining the SEC's LA and Philadelphia leases, avoids potential service disruptions for regional investors, and enforcement work. CDC confirms rare human screwworm case, risk assessed as low. U.S. officials confirmed a travel-associated New World screwworm infection in Maryland. Health authorities say public risk is very low and the patient recovered. Industry groups criticized a disclosure lag. CDC leadership move draws scrutiny. The CDC appointed Retsev Levy, a prominent critic of mRNA vaccines, to lead its COVID-19 immunization work group, a decision likely to influence vaccine policy debates. White House Gaza diplomacy. The president will chair a Gaza meeting in Washington with top U.S. and Israeli officials. The special envoy suggested Washington expects the war to be settled by year end. This is according to Reuters. Alright, so this meeting is supposed to be tomorrow, technically today. I mean, for me, it's still the 26th, but today's the 27th. This meeting is supposed to be on Wednesday, August 27th, 2025. U.S. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is scheduled to meet with Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar in Washington, D.C. So this meeting will be happening today. I don't know if I already did this part. At 3:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. My cat's all under the desk. At the State Department in Washington, D.C. So that's 3:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time at the State Department in Washington, D.C. Marco Rubio will be meeting with the Israeli Foreign Minister Gideon Sa'ar. Domestic deployments and prosecutorial posture under legal and moral scrutiny, public opposition to the D.C. troop deployment, plus plans for Chicago and seeking death penalties in D.C. cases are drawing legal and civil rights challenges from officials and advocacy groups. Watch for court filings and congressional oversight to follow. Yesterday, the stock market closed with the S&P 500 at $645.16, up approximately 0.45%, essentially neutralizing yesterday's dead market, the tank that happened yesterday. So it's like up about the same amount that it dropped yesterday. The SPDR Dow Jones Industrial Average ETF DIA closed at $454.49, up about 33%. That one, I think, also plummeted yesterday. Invesco QQQ Trust closed at $572.61, up roughly 0.43%. Markets ended the day on a positive note, shaking off earlier volatility tied to debates over Fed independence. The rally, led by strength in technology and industrial sectors like Boeing, reflects cautious optimism, supported by expectations of a September rate cut despite political pressure on the Fed. Here are the U.S. trade and economic highlights from the past 24 hours. U.S. doubles tariffs on Indian goods to 50%. The Trump administration's new 50% tariffs on Indian goods took effect today as India continues to purchase discounted Russian oil, sparking renewed tensions between Washington and New Delhi. While Indian exports to the U.S. account for just 2.3% of Indian GDP, experts warn 55 billion or 70% of exports are now at risk, potentially impacting growth and prompting India to explore alternate markets and policy responses. Oil prices steady amid uncertainty. Oil markets remain steady. Brent around $67.32, WTI around $63.33 per barrel, balancing out declines from the previous day. Traders are watching risks tied to the Ukraine conflict and the impact of new U.S. tariffs on India's demand dynamics. U.S. businesses' investment in core capital goods, excluding aircraft, rose 1.1% in July, with shipments up 0.7%, marking the largest improvement in shipments since April 2023, despite ongoing global tariff pressures. These figures point to a strong start to the third quarter. Markets jittery over Fed independence amid Cook dismissal. Trump's attempt to fire Fed Governor Lisa Cook has rattled markets, sparking fears about Federal Reserve independence. The U.S. dollar weakened, bond yields steepened, and stock futures softened following the abrupt political move. And remember, kids, the stock market is not the economy. Just because the Dow Jones or S&P might be performing does not mean that wages are growing, jobs are secure, inflation is under control, or that people are thriving. And here's our upcoming hazardous weather outlook for the next few days. Southeast, e.g. Alabama, midweek outlook. Monday and Tuesday bring warm, mostly dry conditions with highs near the 90-degree mark. Wednesday alerts, scattered afternoon thunderstorms are likely with lightning and localized flood risks. National hazards, while specific regional data was limited, broader hazard monitoring reveals several concerns. West, Southwest, and Rockies. Extreme heat continues in parts of the desert Southwest into midweek. Fire weather warnings remain in effect, highlighting high wildfire risks due to hot, dry, and windy conditions. Great Basin and Central Southern Plains. A slight risk of flash flooding has been identified for areas in eastern Colorado, southern Kansas, Oklahoma, Panhandle, and western Arkansas, particularly where afternoon thunderstorms may trigger sudden rain bursts. Midwest and East, a cool, dry continental air mass will depress temperatures from the plains through the Midwest into the East. Many places could experience highs 15 to 30 degrees below normal, with record cool maximum temperatures expected in some areas midweek, including Southeast. An active tropical storm, Fernand, off of the Atlantic may drive dangerous rip currents along parts of the East Coast, though landfall is not currently expected. And here are some additional international news highlights. U.S. agrees to tariff exemptions for Indonesian commodities. Indonesia's economic minister confirmed that U.S. has agreed in principle to exempt Indonesian exports, in principle, not in writing, of palm oil, cocoa, and rubber from a 19% tariff. No timeline was provided, but talks also covered potential American investments in Indonesia's fuel infrastructure. In collaboration with Sovereign Wealth Fund, Indonesia aims to leverage this to boost economic growth 5.4% by 2026. Iran warns European powers against reinstating UN sanctions. Iran has issued a warning to European powers, specifically France, Germany, and the UK, not to invoke UN snapback mechanism to reimpose sanctions. The message was delivered during talks in Geneva. Despite the tension, both sides agreed to continue nuclear negotiations. UN probe into Israeli settler violence hampered by funding shortfall. A UN commission investigating Israeli settler violence and arms transfers related to the Gaza conflict is underfunded, hindering its ability to hire staff and gather evidence. Kind of sounds like our agencies here at the United States. Kind of weird. These guys are talking to each other too. The inquiry, expected to issue reports by March 2026, is operating at around half capacity due to donor fatigue and unpaid dues, including from the U.S. Diplomatic outcry after deadly double strike on Gaza hospital. An Israeli double strike at Gaza's Nasser hospital killed at least 20 civilians, including 5 journalists working at Reuters, AP, and Al Jazeera, sparking global condemnation. EU diplomats called for urgent action, and Human Rights Watch warned of potential war crimes implications for U.S. involvement. Lebanon to propose Hezbollah disarmament plan by August 31st. The U.S. Special Envoy to Syria and Lebanon announced that Lebanon will submit a plan by August 31st to persuade Hezbollah to disarm, relying on peaceful incentives rather than military pressure. Israel has indicated it may reduce its military presence in the south if the plan is enacted. Geneva talks continue amid tensions over nuclear deal. Iran and European trio, France, Germany, and the UK met in Geneva to discuss resuming nuclear inspections and diplomacy before an October 18th deadline tied to the 2015 nuclear deal. Iran has enriched uranium to 60% purity and warned of severe repercussions if UN sanctions resume. And this is today's news for yesterday. Today is now 8:27. It is August 27th, 1:31 a.m. Mountain Standard Time. Is the year 2025. I'm gonna go now.
So the Olympics is great, and Johnny for the others, the World Cup. Johnny is the head of it. We had our top people, Wasserman. They all came in on the Olympics, and then I saw Johnny, and we got the World Cup too. And it's only because they rigged the election that I'll be your president representing you there. I got both of them. I got the Olympics and I got the World Cup. And I said, it's too bad. One was in 2026 and the other was in 2028. And I said, I won't be there. I won't be your president. But then they rigged the election. And now we won, so I'm going to be your president for the Olympics and for the World Cup. So, Johnny, thank you for the World Cup. And everybody, thank you for the Olympics. We're going to have a great time.
Hey guys, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and comment on my videos. And also, don't forget to check out my shop where you could get this awesome Real Patriots Punch Nazis t-shirt. America, fuck yeah. And if you go to the link tree in my bio on most platforms, it's got links to everything, all of my stuff. You can find my shop there. I'm on eBay. You can also get this cool Exterminate MAGA sticker, cause MAGA's fucking cockroaches. And fuck MAGA, abolish MAGA, fuck you MAGA.